Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Captain Papi, and what do we have here? A letter from the OPTC team. No longer the producer, no longer the community manager, but as a conglomerate, the OPTC team. Now, first of all, let's get serious. The headphones are coming off. You know what I mean? Now we're getting real talk. I have more mobility. There's so much wrong with the letter, and there's no reason whatsoever for this letter to actually exist because it provides nothing. That's just the hard and fast truth of it all, right? But the audacity to release this and have no substance, and everything they've said in the letter is just purely just incorrect. Not like literally, but by the process of the actual game itself. It's a very disheartening letter to receive, and it's actually quite hilarious because a lot of JP players have also looked at this letter and have seen the global players' outrage, and have also noticed that maybe global players are upset with the game in their eyes as well. So we've kind of formed this team, I suppose, of the JP and global side finally unanimously deciding that the management of Treasure Cruise is horrid. And that is just the hard and fast truth. The management of One Piece Treasure Cruise is horrid, it is deplorable, it is outright disrespectful, and it is just plain rude. As I've mentioned in multiple and previous times, I personally believe that this game is run by monkeys. That's my personal opinion, it's not affected by anybody else. But I'm here to chat about the OPTC team letter. Yes, I'll be also talking about it on the podcast, Good Great Perfect, episode 94. So make sure you go check that out, which will probably release in a couple of days after this video. But I'm going to give you my thoughts and opinions on a more personable note. I don't know how long this video is going to go for. We're just going to delve right in and read it line by line and then give our thoughts in this regard here. Dear Nakama, thank you for playing One Piece Treasure Cruise. We apologize for the long gap in updates between now and our OPTC team letter from November 2022. That's already a problem. The fact that they've openly admitted... Actually, it's not necessarily a problem per se. But the fact that they've openly admitted to not having engaged with the audience since November of last year, mind you, that was at the time that Totsuki did an interview with Yoshi, and they provided that letter of like what they're planning to do going forward. That's a huge problem in itself. We have, for the longest time, complained about transparency of management and complained about why that is such a big problem and why it needs to improve. It is not good and it is not fair for you to just release like a letter such as this and then 9 months later you'll release another letter saying, hey, we're sorry we haven't talked to you guys since June of 2023. Well, hey, the game's great, right? Like, you can't be doing this. These letters should be coming out once a month. We used to get the newsletter on the JP version where they would outline everything that was coming out for that month. And I think that was excellent. That was a way to communicate. That was a way to present news to the audience. It was a really enjoyable process. This is not right. This is not fair. And I think this is a spit in the global audiences, on just the Treasure Cruise audience's face for the most part. I don't care that you're going to admit to saying, oh, we apologize for the long gap between updates. Don't apologize. Be better. That's just the plain truth. Bandai makes enough money. One Piece is a big enough IP. There is no excuse to not be dedicating as many resources as humanly possible to making One Piece Treasure Cruise the best possible product it can be. But unfortunately, in the eyes of Bandai, the best possible product that One Piece Treasure Cruise can be is the most revenue they can return on their product for the minimal amount of effort required. It's this uncanny balancing act where they're looking for money over actual audience enjoyment. Nonetheless, PKA was recently released for the 9th anniversary. Did you get a chance to play it yet? It's been over a month. We've had PKA for over a month. Furthermore, we haven't had PKA for at least a week and a bit. I'm not 100% sure how long it's been, but it's been quite some time since PKA had ended to this point now. Obviously, with news in 2 days' time, the next PKA season will start, and even that's a whole grab bag of interesting decisions on their behalf. But this seems like a letter that should have released a couple days into Pirate King Adventure. This letter probably was meant to release a couple days into Pirate King Adventure, as opposed to a month and a half after PKA has released and concluded. As our team previously mentioned, the need to repeatedly clear the same quest in the exact same way, and there being a lack of ways to obtain past characters are two major issues affecting the game. This in itself is fundamentally an incorrect statement. These are not the two main problems with the game that Bandai sees. I don't know from what metrics or data they've decided that repetition and lack of acquiring past characters are the two major issues. There's fundamental issues such as the gameplay loop is boring, the content cycle is unenticing, the amount of legends you're releasing is an uncanny amount, the Sugo Fest structure is horrid, every game mode is flawed in its entirety, there's no game mode that's actually a positive experience. Those are the problems. The problem about repeatedly clearing the same quest in the same way, unfortunately, that's just a product of the game that we're playing. There is no way around that. It's a gacha game. It's an RPG for the most part. It's a puzzle game. You're required to farm content, as is what it's always been like. You're required to defeat content to progress your account. If you really wanted to defeat the idea of repeatedly clearing the same quest in the exact same way, you would only make every quest clearable once. And once you cleared the quest once, you would have every possible factor to max out a unit. You in yourself, in the fundamentals, hit my mic, I'm getting serious. You in yourself, in the fundamental sense, cannot defeat that major issue. A free-to-play character can require anywhere between 9 to 12 copies. No, that's right. 9 copies being two limit break, 2 potential abilities plus level limit break, or 3 potential abilities plus level limit break, including the extra character requires, so 13 units total. Inherently, from the system that you have now created, in terms of maxing out or leveling up a character, that's already a problem. Furthermore, leveling up a unit requires constant play to farm materials in order to use them on the unit themselves. These materials come in the forms of, let's start from the very top. Level up experience. That requires turtles. You either farm turtles by playing PKA, or, I don't know, we maybe had in the past a monthly turtle island that was an easy way to farm turtles in itself. You can farm them from PKA, you can farm them, or you have to farm them from the 5 stamina islands, which in itself is already breaking your point there of saying the need to repeatedly clear the same quest in the exact same way. That's why we have the auto button as well, to clear those tedious quests by itself. Nonetheless, then you have limit break. Limit break requires you every single month on a schedule to pull for a subset of units to play a piece of content that has 6 bosses, where every boss you are using the exact same team and clearing it in the exact same way. Once again, defeating your purpose of saying the need to repeatedly clear the same quest in the exact same way. And then you have support medals. There's still no way to farm support medals. So how do you do that? You play Kizuna. You have 3 bosses, potentially 3 super bosses. Each boss will have either its own bespoke team or a 1 versus all team. Once again, the need to repeatedly clear the same quest in the exact same way is defeated in principle by the game mode that has been created. I.e., you're using the same teams to defeat the same bosses, and the only way that those teams are changing is generally in the super boss sets, when you're iterating on teams to try to eke out more and more damage. And of course, I do agree with regular boss teams that can occur as well, but for the most part, for the average player, you're going to be using the same team throughout the entirety of an event. Alright then, furthermore, level limit break. The only way you can acquire posters right now is pretty much via Grand Voyage, or if you get lucky and drop them during Treasure Map, or whatever. There might be other outlets, such as you can get them from Pirate Rumble, or you can, you know, get them from other facets of clearing quests and stuff like that too. But let's say Grand Voyage. Grand Voyage, I guess, kind of defeats that sentiment in its own regard, because there are only a subset amount of teams, so you're actually forcing people to clear the same quest in the same way, because you're only allowing players to use what I think currently right now for the versus Arlong team, versus Luffy and Arlong Park Grand Voyage, there's like 1 or 2 teams max at the moment. If you don't have those teams in those maxed out capacities, you can't clear the content. So you're gating content by forcing us to clear the quest in the same way. Again, that's a fundamental problem. Finally, you have Pirate Rumble. Pirate Rumble is probably the only bit of content that kind of subsides that first problem, because those teams generally get iterated upon, and Rumble is like literally in its own bubble to the side, where it's not a necessity to progress your account in terms of progressing a unit per se. The only requirement of Rumble is that to level up your Gather Island, to max out your unit's candy, and to get more resources and rewards, etc. So all in all, my personal sentiment to needing to repeat the same quest in the exact same way is that you yourselves have completely diminished that in its entirety by the way you've designed how units are maxed out, how units are level up, how units exist in One Piece Treasure Cruise. Now the second point here, which can be easily answered, a lack of ways to obtain past characters. There's a little thing that Bandai Namco created, which was called the Recollection Archive. This is the response to this problem. You were updating it. Well, you did miss things like Arena Devon, and there's a few other units that you missed as well, but this is the fundamental problem. You created something that existed to defeat the problem of obtaining past characters. The Recollection Archive worked fantastically. It was actually a really good system. New players coming into the game had 200 points to spend on the Recollection Archive, where quests range between, I believe it was 60 and like 120 points. And you gave out an item that let us recharge our Recollection Archive points at least like once a week or once a fortnight, every 2 weeks. That way, players could launch the island. They had an hour to clear it. And nowadays, because you've made it so easy to level up units, special level up units, I should say, you could go in, farm 9 or 13 copies of a unit, and be done with it. That's done in an hour if you're sitting down and actually wanting to play. So you've actually resolved that problem by a bit of content already existing. The only problem that you saw with Recollection Archive is that Recollection Archive did not bring in any revenue. The Recollection Archive was just a graveyard for old bits of content for people to go and play. The problem with that is that there's no need to go acquire certain units or special characters or boosted units, the things that you will sell during your Sugo Fests, to clear that kind of content. So all in all, you created a system that was actually really well designed and then shot it in the foot to provide us the system that you've introduced in Pirate King Adventure. Which I guess leads us right into, to tackle these issues, we've decided to release Pirate King Adventures. Again, you're talking about Pirate King Adventure a month and a bit after you've released it. And you're talking about it in the sense of it is brand new. It is not brand new. We've played it. We've all understood. We've all thought of strategies. There's the stump strat of just farming the map now. There's the ideas of keeping your boss level low so you can auto the boss and farm the turtles. There's the ideas of not even bloody playing the game mode anymore. Like, I don't understand why this letter was warranted now. Anyway, how does this new content address these problems? Let's take a look. Problem 1, requiring repetition of the same quest. In Pirate King Adventure, the player must select the hex most appropriate for their needs in any given game session, be it one with a certain item they want, a certain buff, and so on. They should give your gaming experience some variety. We hope players will enjoy this new content as it replaces the repetitive grinding events held at the beginning of the month. Let's break this statement down. In PKA, the player must select hexes most appropriate for their needs in any given game situation. That's true to some capacity. You are given generally one of two options, and you can choose where to path what path to take. Obviously, you're not going to be able to acquire everything on a single path, which kind of gives variety per run. It gives a distinct feel to every run. Not every run is the exact same per se. However, the problem that I see is this part here. Be it one with certain items they want. Unfortunately, you saw there's a massive flaw in the PKA reward system that you would offer players statues to level up the buddy level of these units of these characters that support you throughout your adventures in PKA. However, the problem that you overlooked entirely is people are naturally gonna max out the buddy level of these characters. So when I'm going for a chest, i.e. a certain item that I want, things like Super Cola for example, and I pick up a chest, 9 times out of 10, that chest is going to contain 3 statues that do absolutely nothing for me. It is a waste of my time to even play PKA because the odds of me getting any other item other than statues in any capacity, it's just wrong. You can't advertise it as having autonomy over what you do, which in some capacity you do because you get to pick where you go. But the rewards you earn, I suppose you can choose what you pick up. But if I have all my buddy levels maxed at level 50 and you give me a Zoro, Sanji, and Nami statue, I guess I have the autonomy to choose what statue I want. But do any of these statues provide me any benefit at all? No. They just don't. And it is a useless system, and I don't understand how this could even have been possibly overlooked at any point whatsoever. And it was overlooked because we know that you guys do not quality assure, you don't test, you don't play your own game. So I don't understand how you can sit there and say that we as the player have autonomy in any degree. We hope players will enjoy this new content as it replaces the repetitive, grindy events held at the beginning of the month. PKA is a repetitive event. It's not grindy, it's a repetitive event held at the beginning of every month. Well, actually, this is held at the end of every month. So I guess they've defeated that part there. But the problem is, it's still repetitive. You go into the quest, you launch it up, you go versus the mid-map boss with the same team. You go versus the final boss with the same team. In turn, we are going back to here that said, the need to repeatedly clear the same quest in the exact same way. We are doing exactly that by playing PKA. It's the exact same thing. So I don't understand. I can't comprehend how you can actively say that the turtle farming event was a bad event. Yes, if we're talking, like, if we're abstracting ourselves and we're looking at the turtle farming event just as an individual event, it was a horrible event. An event that required you to have the new units to get more drops to make your farming experience more enjoyable. But you got a great amount of Chopper Man mission rewards. It was an opportunity to farm turtles. There was no limit on how much you could play the event, and the event ran on natural stamina. So if you wanted to, if you wanted to be super min-max efficient, you could farm the turtle event every day with all your natural stamina, acquire a bunch of turtles, wait for your stamina to recharge, and do it again. It was a way to consistently farm turtles. For like 30 odd days straight. More like 35 even. PKA has a problem because it has its own bespoke stamina system, where at maximum you can play 5 times a day. 5 times a day, if you have no boosters, you might be getting something like 10 to 15 turtles a run, if you're fighting both bosses, which means a day you can get 50 turtles. As somebody who has 600 stamina, if I was to order the lowest stam, I could order the lowest stam with the highest boost team I could possibly have. I could then complete 20 runs in a single stamina bar. In those 20 runs, I may be earning, like, let's say 3 to 8 turtles, you know. So my minimum would be about 60 turtles. My maximum would be about 160 turtles. And that is pure free-to-play stamina. I'm not using any items to get that. The only way you're doing 5 runs a day is if you're consuming 2 stamina meats per day. Now, for a lot of people, a lot of endgame players, they have a ton of stamina meats stacked up because they haven't been useful for a very long time, only useful during Blitz battle. For a lot of beginner players, they're not going to have the resources necessary to actually play PK 5 times a day. Heck, a lot of players, once they maxed out level 150 and the Chopper Man missions, they were doing 3 runs a day at most. I was doing 3 runs a day at most because there's no reason for me to farm the content any extra. On top of that, some days I didn't want to play. Some days people didn't play at all. So all in all, I don't understand how you can think that PKA replaces the repetitive, grindy events held at the beginning of the month. And we've said this a million times, so I don't want to harp on it, but there was no reason whatsoever for you to remove the turtle farming event for PKA. Both of these events could have coincided perfectly. You could have given players an extra 30 to 50 gems a month, which people would have adored. You would have had 2 platforms to farm turtles now. You'd have also had 2 platforms to farm cola, in turn allowing us to achieve the new system of ships where you need 15,000 cola and 20 super cola to even attempt to get a ship to level 12. And then after you've done that, you need tens, if not hundreds of thousands of cola to even get beyond that and get close to achieving a maxed out ship with 5 stars across the board, etc. The final point there that they bring up as an issue is limited availability of previously released characters. Again, we talk about the point of the Recollection Archive existing, and the Recollection Archive was a fantastic place to acquire new units, old units I should say, for new accounts. In Pirate King Adventures, you can use tickets you've obtained and exchange them for past characters. This is a new opportunity to obtain characters that previously had limited means of being recruited, and numerous past characters are available. We plan to add even more characters from here on out, so keep an eye out for them. Again, this is just a stupid remark. The new ticket system is ridiculous. I'm looking at the game right now. I acquired 279 tickets, of which I spent 150 tickets on Super Cola, because they can only get 3 per month. In itself, that's also a fundamental problem. The amount of cola you can acquire is 3 per month. Looking at all the base Straw Hats, they have 20 tickets each to acquire. Looking at the invasion units, they have 40 tickets each to acquire. Looking at the old style Blitz battle units, they have 20 tickets to acquire per unit, and they also have their limit break material, their bespoke limit break materials. Then the units that didn't have limit break materials anymore with 30 tickets to acquire. So let's break that down real quick. In a single month of playing PKA every day, a minimum 3 times per day, so over 100 runs throughout the entirety of the event, I acquired 279 tickets. If I wanted to go and acquire Invasion Garb and max out his special level, which first of all requires 17 special level ups. So let's just assume you have the books for that, because you can farm the books once a day. They rotate the colors. You then need 9 copies for level limit break, so 10 total at the moment, and he has 2 potential abilities. So you need 10 units. 10 units at 400, at 40 tickets per unit, looking at 400 total tickets. Now, them saying here that you can use tickets you've obtained to exchange is correct. You can do that. But in what capacity would you do that? These tickets are so rare. They are so rare. Furthermore, they're charging 1 ticket for 1 cola, which is already a spit in the face, and 25 tickets for a Hime turtle. Already a spit in the face. Mind you, both of these used to be readily available and acquirable by farming content that already existed. So this idea of now gating the units you can acquire from previous content behind a wall of needing to farm this island or this quest 3 times a day at minimum, where the bosses generally will require you to have the new batch of units, where a lot of beginning to mid-game players will not be able to even see 279 green tickets or adventure tickets. What are you guys doing? Does not make any sense at all to sit there and literally laugh in the face of the player base. For the love of God, Bandai, I don't understand what you guys are doing here. I genuinely do not understand what benefit you're providing by saying this. The first major issue you see is just how you've designed the game. You can't defeat the repetition of requiring repetition of the same quests because of how you've designed the game. Secondly, limited availability of previously released characters was already a solved problem by the Recollection Archive. And you've noticed that the Recollection Archive does not make any revenue for yourselves. So you've ended up deleting that system pretty much in favor of a new system where once a month, if I dedicated all of my resources to acquiring units, I could max out 5/6 of an invasion unit once a month. Or with the 10 straw hats, I can max out 1 unit per month. And there's 10 straw hats, so it requires 10 months. That would also require me to not acquire any super cola, one of the rarest items in the game right now from this shop. So unless your intention is to buff how many adventure tickets we're acquiring every PKA season, or at some point you're going to reduce the cost of these characters, this is the flawed system in itself. Once again, this problem comes from not playing your game, not QAing your game, not testing your game, not reaching out to actually dignified members of the community, both Japanese and global, to understand the fundamental issues of the game. We didn't even know who we're talking to anymore. We're not talking to a community manager, we're talking to an entire team. We don't know where our producer is at, we don't know what's been going on, we don't know what these problems are. All in all, we're very disappointed. We're planning even more updates to keep improving your OPTC experience. We'll be sure to share any update details as they become available, so look forward to more. OPTC team. I don't think I need to sum up anything. I think what I've said speaks for itself. It'd be obviously an interesting discussion to have on Good Great Perfect, so make sure you guys, if you aren't subscribed for some reason, you're here, go subscribe to Good Great Perfect, my podcast, Toski, Flamevius, and Nightmare JP. We're going to be talking about it there as well. All in all, I'm very upset by this letter. It's a nothing letter. It provides no substance at all. It's basically a spit in the face. And I'm very, very proud of the community for stepping up and everyone just clowning on Bandai and making fun of the company. If you want a good laugh, go into the comment section of this tweet and just go look at the responses. They are hilarious, and it's probably one of the first times the community's kind of banded together behind something so drastically, and I think that we've done an excellent job. Whether it will impact anything at all is delusional. I also want to say as well, it doesn't make sense to release this letter a couple days after you've released the survey. Would it not be smarter to get the survey results, collate the data, figure out what people are wanting, and then creating this letter and saying, hey, we've completed the survey, We've noticed what you guys have mentioned for PKA. Here's our reasoning behind why we've chosen A, B, C. We will take this feedback on board, and we might make changes in the future. That would probably be a better letter to receive than saying, hey, the two major issues of the game are A and B, when in reality they're C and D. So, I don't know. That's me. I don't want to keep rambling any longer. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Papi. Talk to you guys next time. Peace.